Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
All right, let's go. Welcome to this week's episode of Run for Fun. It's the show that's designed to explain that if you do it right, running is fun. It's not a topic I think it's addressed enough I think people either think it's something you have to do or it's something that you never want to do. But a little knowledge certainly goes a long way to learn to love the running exercises and leading that to a much healthier lifestyle. I'm your host, Leigh Spann. I'm the meteorologist here at WFLA, but I've also been a pretty consistent runner now for more than a dozen years. And the more I do it and the more I learn to do it correctly, the more I love it and the more I find it fun. And that is in large part to Coach Maria. So Maria joins us every week. How's it been going, Coach?
It's been going good. It's always a fun week. It's Boston Marathon week. So
you're from the Northeast. You've run Boston many times. And for runners, this is definitely, I wouldn't call it necessarily our Super Bowl, but it's definitely the thing that we look forward to.
Yeah,
every
it's fun
year.
to watch. It's also like in Boston, like living in Boston, it's a holiday.
Yeah, a party.
And it's
a big party.
Even if you work, you don't work on Patriots Day. It's like an unspoken rule. You just don't work. So it's just such a fun day, and the energy in the city is amazing, and it's fun to watch on TV. It's fun to be there. It's so fun.
And this year was a little rainy up there, but you were saying really good weather for running fast because it not the best for spectating.
No, and actually, I thought it might make the spectators not show up, but I guess I've heard, I wasn't there this year. I'm usually there, but I was not there this year. I heard they had a fun time anyway. You can't ruin Boston Marathon spirit for those spectators.
Because this year, they always have a Boston Red Sox game on Patriots Day. But this year, they also have the Boston Bruins. We're also playing in the NHL playoffs. So again, Boston was putting on a show.
As always.
And some exciting running. We had friends up there running. And
there were a couple times like, Kellyanne ran it and she said there were 2 miles that it was like a downpour, but everything else was kind of drizzly. But the dew point was kind of low. It was in the 40s and the temperature was like in the 50s. So there were a lot of PRs yesterday. Yeah, it was really awesome weather for running.
Even though, it may not be it looked gross and messy and everyone, but when you're running in that, you don't overheat. So you can use all your energy to go into running and not trying to keep yourself cool. One of the things they were saying on the broadcast was, the other thing, though, because you don't feel so awful, you got to make sure that you're fueling because when you're hot, you want to drink more water, you want to drink more of your electrolytes. But when it's cool and you feel good, you still are using all of them.
And it was a good temperature. Like if it was 30 and raining or 30, 35 and raining, which it was a couple of years ago, that's bad for your muscles. But 55 and rainy is pretty good as long as the dew point's not 55. So
and it was in the 40s. So
it was great. It was great.
Well, we will. We have the male who won it 2 years in a row now. We don't see that very often. So
not very often. It was a great race.
It was a very good race. All right. So today you see at the bottom of the screen that we're talking about cross training, what it is, why it's important. And then the first thing I said to Maria when you got here today is like, it's not something that I do. And you say,
it doesn't matter. Like it depends on the person. So, and it's just because you don't cross train now doesn't mean you won't ever cross train.
Right.
Because a lot of it is dependent on age and recovery and how you cross train. And we'll talk about all that stuff today.
Yeah. So, since we talk so much about running, it is, you're using those same muscles every day. And so you want to continue to build your aerobic endurance, basically.
Yes, your aerobic capacity.
And that's what cross training can do without continuing to break down your muscles, basically.
Yes.
So why would someone who loves to run or has found that running is fun, now we're saying, okay, you can do these other exercises. Why would we tell them to do that?
So there's a couple of reasons. Some of us are more efficient at running than others. We talk about how your run form is a fingerprint. And that's not to say that we can't change it, but you don't want to make big changes in your form. And so there are some people that are more injury prone than others just because their form is not as efficient. So those people need to cross train more. just to prevent injuries. Because remember, the goal is to always keep moving. So so that is one reason. Another reason is as we age, our recovery struggles more. And so we may not be able to run slow enough on our easy days, like our recovery days, to be able to keep the benefit of the workout. We talk about that gray zone that you want to stay out of. So sometimes you just can't stay out of the gray zone when you're recovering from a workout, and then you can't get stronger. So that's when I start putting cross training on a schedule.
So if someone's running right now, they've again found their love of running somewhere along the way. And so they're running 3 to 5 times a week. What would you advise that person to cross train time wise, day wise, exercise wise? Like what would they need to do if they are feeling that they are more broken down than they probably should be?
Yeah. And you can be broken down from overtraining too. So remember that. Like you could just be a person, which typically if you're overtraining, you're probably not doing it correctly. But there are a population of people that really like get burned out easily. And so that's another reason to cross train. And so what we do for cross training needs to be something that we like to do. Now, that being said, you need to do something that's working your aerobic capacity. And so sometimes people will say, oh, coach, I'm going to cross train and I'm going to strength train. And I'm like, that's not cross training. Like strength training is not cross training.
And you're not saying not to do that.
I'm not saying don't do strength training. Strength training is very beneficial. I mean, it makes you stronger. It makes you able to keep your form longer. And it prevents injury. So strength training is very important, but it's not keeping your aerobic capacity where it needs to be. And so that would be swimming, which we all love swimming.
I do love swimming. You're a swimming family now. So.
Yeah. My children love to swim a lot more than I do. But swimming, like aqua jogging, is good. Elliptical is great. Those would be my first choices. Second choice.
And why would that be? Because when you swim, I swam laps many, many years, and you are out of breath.
Yeah, I mean, you can't push yourself hard enough in the pool, like for you to. Well, I guess that's not true. You really can overtrain in the pool, but it's harder because it's not. It's harder to get your heart rate up high enough when you're swimming, and it's also non-weight bearing. So you're not putting the pressure on your joints, you're not putting the pressure on your muscles, and you're still getting that aerobic capacity without the stress on your body. So that's why I like swimming. The same thing for aqua jogging. The reason I like aqua jogging, you put on a belt and you get in the water. It's very boring. For me, some people like it. I'm not an aqua jogger. I can't stand it. But
do your feet actually touch the ground? Because this is not something I've done before.
No, you wear a belt.
So you're floating.
And you're floating and you're basically running. And the reason I like that for cross training is because it mimics the motion of running. So you're not you're getting the benefits of the motion without the weight bearing. But you're not going anywhere.
So it's real boring.
And typically, I mean, it's better in Florida because we have a lot of pools that are outside. So that can be beneficial. But, it's good for people that can't do the crawl stroke efficiently. Like some people just can't swim well enough to get the benefits.
And then elliptical, kind of the same thing. You're not constantly banging your feet on the ground, but you have that same motion.
Yes. And elliptical, I give people backwards elliptical when we're training for Boston because you're working on that eccentric contraction on your quads, which mimics the downhill. So especially in Florida,
we don't have any.
Downhill. We don't have a lot of downhill, so we got to get creative about how to prepare the body. So sometimes we'll do, So
you just tell people to basically walk backwards.
Walk backwards as cross training. Stairmaster, that's another good one if you do it correctly, which means not overexerting yourself. Biking, I like. Biking is excellent. You're working your quads and hamstrings if you correctly bike.
That's what I was going to say. Sometimes it feels like if you can get on your cruiser bike and you're going up and down the sidewalks, is that biking or is that just not,
if it's a recovery day, that's a great cross training to do. If it's if you have to do it in place of a long run because something else is going on, because sometimes we cross train when we have an injury. then I would suggest doing a bike workout in that case.
So I have a question about sort of more of, I guess maybe more of an existential question. So why would someone want to cross train if they love running? Like is it helpful in any other way other than just keeping you from hurting yourself? Is it helpful
it's
mentally?
I think it's always good to have more than one activity, because if you do get injured, which we are a high injury sport, you have something to fall back on. So you're not taking a bunch of time off and losing your aerobic capacity. And you are building, like on a road bike, you can go twice the distance, you can go 2 hours on a bike and you can get a tremendous amount of aerobic capacity in those 2 hours that without the pounding on your body. So that can be really, really beneficial for runners. And especially if you're a new runner and you're trying to build that aerobic capacity, because it takes a long time to build.
And that's something we should talk about as well, is that
years and years.
Yes. I mean, we had a whole episode on this, and one of the early episodes, if you're going back and listening and on the podcast, where you think of it as a bank, and you have to deposit a lot of really slow, long miles before you build up your bank account that then you can cash in to do more fast running or long distance running.
And that's a good point. Like if you can't run slow enough, that's a good way to get more aerobic capacity quicker, is to do something that keeps you in that zone 1 or zone 2 heart rate. It's much easier on your body.
And that's swimming usually and biking.
Mm-hmm.
So
like people say,
my dog is whimpering. Sorry.
People say, like, I can't believe your son ran a 3:47 marathon on his first marathon. Well, the kid has been swimming since he was 8 years old. Like he built up all of that aerobic capacity for years and years, and it does translate. So when he starts running, he has all that aerobic capacity, and what a benefit for him.
So would you ever tell a swimmer to cross train by running?
I mean, actually not really. Yeah. And the reason being with swimming, because swimming is so much technique. I mean, there are some swimmers that will run, and it helps to be an overall better athlete.
Right.
But swimmers, it's so technique driven that that's the one sport that the more you're in the pool, the better you're going to be. Like it's just such a technique sport, which is why I'm terrible at it.
I like to go across the pool and turn around and come back, and then not worry about my technique as long as I am actually moving in one direction and turning and going in the opposite direction. I feel like I'm just doing a great job.
Yeah. Well, my kids have tried to teach me like a million times, because I always get so bored in the pool and I can't flip turn because I get disoriented and I'm like, I hate it. And they try to teach me to flip turn one time, and they were like in the pool with me. They're like, Mama, just like go and you just flip and then you just kick. And I'm like, oh yeah, just flip and kick. Just flip and kick. It's real easy to just flip and kick. So yeah.
So what about here? I'll show you that. We did talk about weight training. So so good exercise. We've talked about that, but should someone who is trying to build up their aerobic capacity, should they do anything with weight bearing? And again, that you and I talked about, that's not just going and lifting weights. That's also yoga is a weight bearing exercise.
And yoga is great. Yes. I love yoga for stretching. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming. You're like, oh, I'm new and I should be doing all of these things. And it doesn't have to be complicated. That's the thing. Like if you want to strength train and do lunges, like one-legged squats, like with no weight, that your body weight is enough. So you can, and you don't have to do a tremendous amount of it. And that's very important, but that is not considered cross training. Yeah. It's just not.
So if someone is, again, doing this 3 to 5 day a week run, would you say, okay, one day is cross train and then maybe every other, like how would you space out cross training, running, and then weight training? Because I feel like even as someone who likes to run, it feels like that's a lot. How do I manage it all? Well, just remember,
if you're cross training, you're typically not running that day.
Okay.
So like I like to put cross training with my older runners on like the day after their track workout.
Yeah.
And then or the day after a long run or the day before a long run, if I'm worried about them, adapting well enough. So you're taking away a run and you're adding cross training. So there's that. If you're going to add strength training, I usually put my strength training on the hard day. So I will do like a track workout on a Tuesday morning, and then Tuesday, either right after, that's the ideal, right after, to go and do some lunges and some push-ups and some core exercises. Are you listening, Pickles?
Yeah, I'm gonna. She's being very loud.
Pickles is joining in on the conversation.
She will join in on the podcast because apparently all she wants to do is talk. All right.
Yeah. So so you're doing. The ideal would be right after your track workout, and then you have plenty of time to recover from it. Second best would be the night of. So like you're doing your track workout in the morning, and then you're doing your track workout at night, and then last would be like the day after, but then you have a couple days before you do another hard workout. So really you always want to prioritize recovery because you can't get stronger if you don't recover from it.
And what is the overall goal of all of this? Is it to be faster? Is it to be to go longer? Is it to be injury free?
I mean, it can be all of those things.
Yeah.
So like I have a new runner from Germany actually that I just took, and she only likes to run 4 days a week, but she wants to train for a marathon. And so that's kind of difficult to train for a marathon on 4 days a week. So we are biking. She's definitely biking on the other days. She just likes that. She's a phenomenal runner. She just really likes that. So whatever is going to make you be able to run and stay running and be fit for longer without having to take time off, that's what we're going to do. I have another runner right now who went on a hiking trip. She was wearing some boots. She's been a high mileage runner. She's training for a marathon, and she was like jumping off rocks, got a stress fracture in her, metatarsal. And so now we're cross training for 2 weeks because then she's not going to lose anything to get it better.
So, because I feel like, if someone's been listening to this, we've been telling them, fall in love with running. Running is wonderful.
Yeah.
And now we're like, but there's also all these other exercises.
Yes.
And the idea is that you can love running and still love just having a healthier lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think isn't that the goal?
Yes.
Like, so that we can do more things. And I don't know, I feel like it slows down time. Like I saw a podcast about how if you try new things, it slows down your life. Like that's why when we're a kid and our summers feel so long, it's because we're doing so many new things. And so I'm like, what a great thing as a runner to be like, oh, I'm going to try. Now, I'm not going to argue with you that it's frustrating at first, but what a cool thing to learn a new skill at an older age and keep your mind working and keep your body working, and you're using different muscles. And so you're overall in better shape.
And one of the things as you learn more about a sport, for instance, running, which is why I say the more you learn that it can be fun. But you're also then using your mind, and now you get to I find out about cross training, or you find out about shoes or gaits. Your running gait. All these things are, to me coming in as a runner 12 years ago, I knew none of these things. So it's like I'm also a whole new vocabulary of a sport that I didn't even really know existed. So that's kind of where when I started this episode saying, if you just get out and run, it may seem, why would I do that? Or I'm doing that just to lose weight, or I'm doing that just to stay in shape, or I'm never going to run, which is what I hear from people all the time. I would never run. It's like, but once you learn how to do it right, it is fun. And then there's this whole, it's this whole book of knowledge of things that you get to then learn and try. I have found it so fun.
And it's the confidence. Like think about who you were before you started running. You're probably terrified to run and thinking, oh, I'm not a runner. Like, especially me, I was not a runner, and I never was known as a runner. I was known as a musician, and I was scared. And once you start getting better at it, you're like, oh, wow, actually, this is opening up a whole new world for me. And sometimes as runners, we just get into this like, oh, I'm just a runner. And I'm like, well, the confidence that you have should open up new things, because if you try swimming now, or you try biking now, or you try, you're just opening up this whole new life for yourself where you can try new things and, be learning.
And, and then if you want to, when you're trying the new thing, you can remember, okay, well, I felt so ignorant when I was starting to run, but look at how far I've come. So it's okay. If I'm going in the pool, I don't know how to do a flip turn. It's okay. I can learn, or I can still enjoy it, but you can always go, think back to when you started, like how far you've come in whatever thing you're doing, so that the next thing you start, you'll be like, it's okay. Don't feel that you can remember that it's okay to be a little ignorant about something at the beginning, so that there's so much to learn. And also,
I think it's brave.
Yeah.
If you think about it, who's going to go into a painting class when they stink at painting? Like, I'm not going to do it, although I did with running. So why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you? I was
It's
going to say, why
pretty
not?
brave to know you're going to be the worst at something and go learn. Like, that's very brave. We don't give ourselves enough credit for doing that. It's easy for people that are naturally talented, but people that are not naturally talented at that, it's very brave.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, what do you find with your runners when you tell them to cross train, or do they usually take to it pretty easily?
Some people do, some people don't. Some people, like, sometimes I'll put on schedules cross train or off. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people try it, some people just would rather have the off day, and that's okay too. It's just going to be a little bit slower building your aerobic capacity, but you're still getting the benefits of resting as opposed to like running easy and not getting the benefits of getting stronger from the workout.
And so, when you add in the weights, and you're saying do that on a day that you actually
hard days
so you keep hard days very hard.
Yes.
And so
easy days very easy.
So
Yes.
so don't try to say like, oh well, today was an easy run day, so I have more energy to go do a workout.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
Okay.
I mean, a lot you can tell from heart rate. Heart rate is naturally going to be elevated the day after a workout. So a lot of times I don't worry too much about it. But it does mean that your body's working harder because it's not recovered yet. Yeah. So if it's like really, really high the next day, I would say that's better for you to cross train if you can't control it at all.
And then so
that's an indication that your body is just working too hard.
So you would advise people to have some sort of like smartwatch so they can keep an eye on it all the time.
Yeah. But I also would say you can tell by feel.
Okay.
If you feel like you're working too hard the day after a workout, like even if you are slowing down as much as you possibly can slow down, that's me right now. I cannot, on a recovery day, I have to cross train. I don't know if it's older or if it's my autoimmune or what it is, whatever it is, like I just can feel it. You should be able to feel it.
Okay.
Not just legs. You should feel it in your nervous system. Your nervous system will feel overactive.
Okay.
Yeah. Almost like
you're
like
worried
you've
about
had way
something?
too much caffeine.
Yeah.
That's a really good example. Or some people, it just feels like you're in overdrive a little bit.
Okay.
You want to avoid that feeling the day after a workout.
So that should be your clue to either take the rest day, or if you were thinking about running, maybe to then take the cruiser bike out on Bayshore Boulevard and just enjoy the day.
And you can do yoga on a cross training day. It's just not going to give you the aerobic capacity. It's more of a stretching. It's more of a day off, and that's fine. I mean, the yogis would probably be like, "What, day off?" It's not a day off in for them. It's different, but for us, it's a day off because our goal is to get as much aerobic capacity in that bank as we can as endurance athletes. And I don't care if you only do 5Ks. You're still actually, if you have a 1 mile race,
right?
That's endurance.
It's
need
always
aerobic capacity.
Because I sit next to Deanne King, who was a hurdler in college, and so she thinks of endurance or distance being the 800 meter.
Is
I mean,
distance,
that's a half mile.
Yeah.
And for her,
that's endurance too.
That's a very long way to go, and I'm like, that's not even beginning of my warm up, but it's because these are just two different ways of thinking about it. So just because you're not running a half marathon or a marathon, if you are running more than a half mile by track standards, you are in endurance.
It is aerobic
athlete.
capacity, and the more aerobic capacity you have, the faster you're going to go at shorter distances. It just is the reality.
And again, we did a whole podcast on it, but it probably gets brought up in almost every episode that we've done. You build that up not by running fast.
Yeah.
You build that up by running a lot of slow miles or biking a lot of, just whatever to build up that, that endurance.
Yeah.
So that eventually you can cash it out on the tougher days.
And walking too. Walking is cross training for running. I mean, walking has so many benefits that people just they get so in their head about it. Like, even when you're walking on an easy run, if your heart rate gets too high and you have to walk a little bit, it's not a big deal. Like, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
I do like a good walk, but every now and then in my head, it feels so inefficient.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just want to go down the street, and it seems to, just because of my, my brain is like, oh, it should only take us this long to get to this spot. And all of a sudden it's like, still not at that spot. If I could just run over there, I'd be done faster. But that's not the idea is to not be running and to, cross train in a different way.
Well, I've really taken to walking. I really like walking now. Like 2020 was just, COVID was awful on everybody. And my whole system was just crazy. And I started walking to town, and it was like in the summer in Maine. And it was like, it took us probably an hour to walk to town. And I just started really liking it. And so we started adding it in our daily life. And I realized that walking is boring. Except if you're walking to someplace.
Okay.
Like for me, if I'm walking to get coffee, it's fun. Or if I'm walking home from coffee, that's fun. Or if I'm walking to dinner, or if I'm walking to go to the grocery store, I use that as cross training. I just don't like to walk and be like, oh, let's go for an hour walk.
Right. Which is so funny that we will go out and go for 2-hour runs.
Yes, I know.
Like literally the exact same thing and not going anywhere.
It feels so boring to me. I'm like, ugh.
But so there was coming home from if you know this area, we have a big pirate festival, and the Gasparilla, it's a big pirate festival, a big parade down, and I had walked to it. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to walk home from it. And about halfway through, I was like, can I just run home? I just told everybody, I was like, this feels real slow.
It is so, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about just going out for a walk. I can go out to walk the dog for 30 minutes. That's fine.
Well, yeah.
But anything more than 30 minutes.
Walking for 30 minutes. She barely stays awake.
Mocha probably shouldn't be walking that far, but he does pretty well. But I'm okay with that. But like anything over 30 minutes, I'm like, oh, no. Unless you have a friend to walk with. It's the same thing as running. Like if I have my friend Sherry, I love walking with her.
Yeah.
Like, or Ruth, I love walking with my friends because then you catch up. But just going out for a walk on your own is me. No thanks.
but you have all these options. You can swim. You can walk. You can use the elliptical forwards or backwards.
Yep.
And what was the other one? Biking or walking. So you got all these options to cross train, and that's still helping your body become it's more more aerobic, more endurance, more ready to go for longer distances without beating it up.
And there's some people in your life that don't get to run with you, but will definitely walk with you.
That's right.
So if you want to include more people in your life, call your friends that want to see you and catch up with you on your walk day, on your cross training day. I'm going to walk with my friend today.
And then on those hard days, if you want to grab a weight or two, do a yoga class on the hard days.
Yes.
So that's our cross training episode. Now, Maria.
Yes.
You ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. So we're going to start a new section of Run for Fun, where Maria gets to tell us what she thinks. We're going to call it, and while I know the lady can talk for a very long time.
Yes, but not under pressure usually.
We are only going to give her 3 minutes. This is going to be called the Coach's 3-minute drill. Now, she doesn't have to talk for 3 minutes, but she can't talk more than 3 minutes.
Okay. What happens if I go over? It's just going to buzz me out.
No, there's a whistle.
Oh, right.
The whistle is going to go, and you are no longer allowed to talk. But then we can kind of chat about your idea. So I am going to not talk for the next 3 minutes, and we're going to give it all to Maria and the 3-minute drill. So are you ready, Coach?
I think I'm ready.
Here we go.
Actually, I know I'm ready.
Okay.
So today my 3-minute drill is going to be about cross training. Surprise. And it's my pet peeves about cross training. One is that I really, really hate it when people are like, I'm going to cross train and I'm going to go to a spin class on the next day, and they don't care about their heart rate and they think it's cross training, and they're working way too hard and they're missing the point of the cross training. You have to stay in zone 1 or 2 if you have cross training on my schedule. Now, the caveat to that is if you're just recreationally training and you're not trying to get faster at running, go for it. You're just burning calories and that's exercise and that's awesome. But if you're trying to get better at running, your hard days need to be hard and your easy days need to be easy. So a spin class, unless you can sit in the back and just rotate your legs, is not the place to be. My second thing with cross training that's a big pet peeve is that People tend to want to add it when they are exercise addicted people. And too much cross training is still too much exercise. And we can be addicted to exercise just like we can be addicted to anything else. And I really want you to take a hard look at your life if you are trying to push cross training and doing it all the time, because you're probably running from something and you need to keep the addiction under control, because that can affect your family and your friends and your body long term. And that is not good. So keep an eye on the cross training, because those endorphins are kicking all the time. And so we can get addicted to endorphins, and that's not good either. So I only have 1 minute left and I've got nothing else. So I really love monkeys too. Monkeys are great.
So, all right. So you did it in less than 3 minutes. So that's and these are things that that you've, as a coach. How long have you been a coach now?
Oh, God, asked that question. I started in 2008. Okay. So however many years that is.
5, 15?
And I was a personal trainer before that.
15. So 15 years of people, and you only found 2 pet peeves. So I guess that's in the end.
In the cross training.
In the cross
only 2 pet peeves in cross training. I have a lot of other pet peeves that we probably will do in the coach's drill, but
yeah, I did find that obviously, if you feel like you have to be doing something all the time, whatever it is, partying, running, if you feel like you can't not do it,
and I would argue too, that if you feel like you need that endorphin buzz every day, which is why you can't run slow enough because you need that endorphin, I would even argue that you're not doing your hard days hard enough. Because if you're doing your hard days hard enough to improve, you want a rest day. Like, you just want it. So hard days hard, easy days easy. And if you can do it every day and you can go out there and do a spin class right after a track workout because you're awesome, or you can run 6 miles every day at that medium pace, you're not working hard enough on your hard days. So ding, ding, ding.
Yep. So make it a little harder on those hard days. And I do like what the other thing that you said is that, yes, you are coaching people to get better at a sport. And that's why you're a coach.
Yeah.
But if you're just out there trying to burn some calories, and you run a few times a week and do a spin class and do a yoga,
go for it.
Those are all just
those
fine.
are just fine. This is to improve your running endurance. And there is a big difference. Yeah. Like, we're athletes. We eat to perform. We train to perform. If you're dieting and exercising, that's a different thing. Like,
I'm not allowed to diet.
Yeah, no dieting. Like, dieting and exercise, that's a completely different topic, and that's a completely different goal. And I think that's awesome. It's just not what we're doing.
Well, not why we hire a coach. That's not what coach is there for.
That's true.
All right. So we will be back next week. Next week's episode is Girls on the Run.
Oh, fun.
So if wherever you're listening to this, here in the Tampa Bay area, there are all over the country, there are these programs called Girls on the Run, and they're in schools, and then they have a 5K, and the Girls on the Run 5K here in Tampa is coming up. So we're going to talk about that and what it means to start running and introduce distance type running to girls, and girls especially, but young people also.
And what it does for their confidence. Yes. Like, that's what I love about Girls on the Run. It just builds their confidence so much.
So much. All right. Well, we'll see you then on Tuesday. Bye everybody.